The strategies and concepts discussed are for educational purposes only and do not represent specific investment, tax, or estate planning advice. Investing carries an inherent element of risk, and it is in everyone's best interest to consult a legal, tax, or investment professional. John Cyndia is an investment advisor representative of, and advisory services are offered through USA Financial Securities Corporation, member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor. Life Stages Advisory is not affiliated with USA Financial Securities. Life Stages Advisory, Dean or Remington, or any guest we have are not affiliated with USA Financial Securities. Welcome to episode 58 of WTF, Wealth, Tax, and Finances. I'm your host, John Cyndia, certified public accountant and personal financial specialist. I have in the studio with me today Dr. Tracy Price. Hi, Doc.
Hi. How you doing today, John?
And what we're going to mix this up a little bit because I've always thought that, in order for you to have a good fiscal balance on the financial side that we normally discuss, you also have to have, good health so you can actually spend the money, make the money, and then you also need to be mentally astute, mentally aware of what's going on. So today what we're going to do, we're going to touch on the physical side, and actually it's going to consist of antiviral strategies that we can do. Since COVID's such a big thing right now, what we want to do is sort of tie that in to how we can also help prevent, in addition to masks and whatever else the CDC is talking about, what else can we do from a health standpoint? And we'll pull in diets, we'll pull in antiviral strategies, vitamin supplements, things like that. And Dr. Price is going to discuss that, and what I want to do is have him give you a little bit of a background that, he's a chiropractor, but what got him into actually doing this, and we'll talk about that, and then we'll get into the mental health aspects of it down the road. But today we're going to primarily look at it from this antiviral strategy that's going to be able to help either on a preventative basis, and then if you do happen to get something, how you can use this system to attack the virus and actually reduce the effects on you. So, good morning.
Good morning, John.
How you doing?
Great to be here.
I've known Doc now for about 12 years, and we started talking here probably, maybe 2-3 months ago about some things to do here. And I'd have him stand up, and you can't see him on the podcast, but you can catch him on YouTube. So you can see he's a buff guy and everything. And so he actually practices what he preaches, I think. I don't, but then
I try my best.
That's right. So give me a little bit of background here. You've been a chiropractor, and what got you into it? We discussed it a little bit the other day, and you had mentioned that when you were trying to assist some people, that it came from an inflammation standpoint that you noticed something, and then it sort of took you into this direction.
Right, yeah. So, I've been a chiropractor for close to 35 years now. And over the course of time, I've seen how patients have, getting more and more inflamed as I treat them. They're not doing as well, responding as well. It became kind of frustrating for me. And then all this COVID stuff came up. And as chiropractors, we always look at the body holistically.
Okay.
We don't prescribe drugs or you do the medication avenue. We always try to look at it holistically, what we can do, what the approach can be from the body healing within itself. So as I looked into this, I wanted to get better and better results with my patients. I noticed this common thread was the diet and the exercising and the things that patients weren't doing, that we try to motivate them to take care of themselves rather than rely on the physician to heal the body.
Okay.
You got to heal the body themselves. It has to be really commitment personally. You can't try it. It has to be a commitment to get healthy and take care of yourself.
Yeah, and it's usually a problem for me, like during tax season. I've got a steady diet of black coffee, M&Ms, and Twizzlers, and you were talking that's probably not the best thing. I asked the doc about, does that mean that if I ate my M&Ms but had spinach, was that good? And your comment was?
You would probably eat less M&Ms if you ate some spinach with it, because you might get full quicker.
But at least it's a little bit better to have the spinach than it is just plain M&Ms. So,
right, balances you out a little bit.
So tell me a little bit about, from a diet standpoint, and then we'll get into this antiviral stuff
Yeah.
here.
So first, really, it has to begin with the patient or the individual. The diet is the most important thing because you can't really supplement a bad diet away. You really can't exercise a bad diet away.
Hmm.
And so you have to get a good, what some now call a paleo Mediterranean diet. And really what that consists of is just um, getting the refined sugars out of your diet,
Okay.
getting the bad flours out of your diet, and getting the bad oils out of your diet.
So it's don't eat the white breads and certain. When you're talking about the oils, what type of oils you
Yeah,
talking?
sure. So the bad oils are kind of the seed oils, and that's kind of hard to understand for a lot of people because they label these oils as kind of a good oil, like they call it like a vegetable oil, which
Okay.
sounds really good. I'm going to put some vegetables in oil form in my body, and that's going to be really good for me. But those are highly refined and processed, and high omega-6 oils in there.
Okay.
And when that happens, when you're ingesting those type of oils, it really makes a incredible amount of endotoxins in your body, and endotoxins get released in your body and get you inflamed. And so if you can decrease those endotoxins from being released in your body, then you're going to decrease your inflammation in your body.
Okay. Yeah, because I noticed that whenever I do overindulge with some M&Ms or Hershey almonds or something stupid like that, I do get a bloat. So I
Well,
think that's from the sugars and stuff that you're talking
oh yeah,
about.
what's really amazing about this is that they've done studies on this, and that you can be the healthiest individuals, and if you get about 750 to 1,000 calories of bad oils, or eat like 3 or 4 donuts, chomp on those,
Hmm.
in a sitting, um, within an hour, you'll be able to detect endotoxins within your bloodstream. So even if you're a healthy individual, these things can be released in your bloodstream within a matter of an hour.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Now, how long does it take to get that back out of your system then?
Well, it depends how good your diet is. You go and chomp on a couple more donuts an hour later. It's kind of just, and some people, if you're morbidly obese or overweight, you are in a constant state of this inflammatory condition
Okay.
always. You
Okay.
never decrease it. But if you're a healthier individual, you have a good diet, chomp on those things, and then you kind of clean it up for the next day or so, then you kind of come down. But the inflamed people and the overweight people are always in a constant state of endotoxic release.
And what would that look like with a normal person? I mean, is it, say you go through a drive-through and you're going to McDonald's and you're getting a breakfast sandwich and some coffee, and somebody's going back through the drive-through maybe at lunch, or they go out for a quick lunch, grab a sandwich or something, or any of the different, restaurants. What is it, any of the Mexican or Italian restaurants, and you do that, or you finally get home and, you have a can of soup, or you have maybe order a pizza out or whatever and have a glass of wine. I'm sure that doesn't paint a pretty picture, but yet that's probably not an unusual day for a lot of people.
Right. And that's why we have a lot of the health problems we have in the United States today is because of that. And even as much pharmaceuticals or vitamins or whatever you want to take, you're never going to get that gone because a lot of these health conditions, autoimmune problems, obviously high cholesterol, diabetes, mental illness, can be kind of traced back to this bad microbiome endotoxin release type of thing.
Now, what of those things that I said from a breakfast standpoint, or what, they're probably none of them were good for you, right?
Right. Did you ever see that? It was a movie, Super Size Me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where the guy went. It was 30 days and went
Yeah.
to McDonald's. He had to do 3 meals a day at McDonald's, and by
Yeah.
the end of 30 days, how sick he was. Yeah, so that's what happens
that's
when
what's
you do
happening.
that.
So you just sort of build up your body's tolerance to it, then, is what it amounts to.
Right.
Is that
Yeah,
right?
I think so. I think people that in that constant state, eventually they become healthy. And it's interesting because when you're doing that, it's hard sometimes to equate or that is causing ischemia, is causing fibromyalgia, is causing depression, it's causing because it's related to things you're taking into your mouth and not something you take into your brain or
Mhm.
something you put on your skin or something like that.
So it does do physiological damage to your body then, continuing on a steady diet of some type of food like this.
Right.
Then.
There's a direct connection, but people don't understand that direct connection. It's hard to connect the dots
Right.
with that, you know.
How do you see people actually getting out of that cycle? What would you say is a good suggestion to do? Because I know it's hard for me to get to the point of saying, I don't want to exercise and I don't want to walk and I don't want to do this, but you got to force yourself to do this
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, that's just it. You know, it's a commitment you got to make to yourself to do. And you just got to start with day one, you know, and take it day by day.
How would you do somebody that saying, okay, tomorrow I'm going to start this, or Monday? What would be a good starting point to make it simple for somebody to try and get out of this constant revolving door?
First thing I would do is start with a walking program. You know,
Okay.
that's the easiest thing to do. You need a good pair of tennis shoes. You don't need money. You know,
Okay.
you don't need equipment other than the money to buy the good pair of shoes to walk in, and start walking it however much you can walk. You know, if it's 15 minutes the first day and then 20 minutes, and just kind of keep it up. And then the other important thing I believe to do, that's kind of get your cardiovascular benefits, but you have to do something to increase your muscle tonicity. So resistive weight training is great for muscle tonicity. And you just, you know, you can train each body part once a week, and you spend 30, 45 minutes in the gym or doing that. And that's going to increase your burning capacity, your metabolic rate, and things like that. So if you kind of alter the days with that, that's you know, a great way to get started.
Yeah, last year it was after tax season. I had took 15 days, and I just said I'm not going to have any sugars. Well, like you say, you got sugars in whatever you're eating during the day, but mine was just didn't have any candy bars or whatever. And I lost like 10 pounds in 15 days. I felt better and everything else. And then I went on vacation and screwed it all up again.
Right.
So
yeah, and the other thing I might add to that too that a lot of people don't really is the processed food. If you cut out that, and processed food is pretty much anything in a box or wrapper, right?
Okay.
So if you cut out that, that's going to immediately cut out probably 60% of your bad oils or better.
So what about, you know, I would go in and get stocked up on 8 or 10 of these energy bars and stuff. Well, they're in a wrapper, so from what you just told me, that's probably not good. And I'd get them and take them and said, oh, it's a supplement for breakfast or whatever, instead of doing some of these milkshakes they're talking about, and I do a breakfast bar. So that's not a good...
Not a good thing typically.
Yeah.
You know, there's some bit like a protein bar or something like that, the replacement bar, but you have to be very careful on those because usually they do have bad oils or sugars in them. Protein in itself, if you just have protein by itself, it's kind of a very chalky thing, you know, dry and chalky. So it's hard to make those taste good.
Okay.
Yeah, so usually there's some sucrose or something in there or some sugar in there to make them tasty.
Well, give me a for instance of like what's a typical day that you do, like in the morning or something. I mean, are there shakes? Are there anything like that? Are you eating like a chicken breast or something or what?
Yeah, so it depends on the morning, but typically I'll start with a morning with a drink. A drink is I put some fiber in there. I put some protein in there, and then I'll put some greens in there.
Okay.
Greens are good because they're polyphenols and they kill free radicals in your body. And then usually I take some liquid fish oil
Okay.
and some vitamins, a vitamin regimen that we'll talk about here. And then usually go to the gym and do a 30, 45-minute routine, and then go to work. Mid-morning, I'll have a protein bar that I found that's from Standard Process that has no sugars, no bad oils or anything in it. And that's kind of the mid-snack to kind of stop my cravings of hunger.
Okay.
Lunch, usually a salad, some chicken breast on it, and some olive oil and raspberry vinaigrette type of thing. And then mid-afternoon, I might have another protein bar to crave the hunger. And then a lot of times at night, I'll have a chicken breast, broccoli, some type of green vegetable with it, or soup. Bone broth soup is one of the best things.
Bone broth.
Yeah, get the real bone broth. cook it, put some cabbage in there, some Brussels sprouts and carrots. And you can put, if you want a little protein in there, shred up some little chicken breast, put it in there. But bone broth is going to heal your gut. One of the greatest things of all.
Now, is that bone broth? Would be a beef bone?
Beef bones, yeah, beef bone or chicken bone.
Okay.
Preferably they're organic. Yeah, and
So Mama's chicken soup was real
good
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy, and if you look at some of in up until about 1900, we never had heart disease in the United States. And that's because a lot of our oils came from beef tallow and good oils.
Okay.
Butter, which
Yeah.
people freak out when you say you're going to use some butter. But it's better than margarine, which has a trans fat in it.
Yeah.
So trans fats, you can take those out of that thing and set them on a countertop, and it's going to look like plastic the next day.
Well, my great grandmother used to make biscuits, and they were these huge biscuits, and she'd actually use lard. And that's probably still better than margarine, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
and stuff.
And that's what they used up until, and then about 1920s, 1930s or so, we started getting into these other oils, these processed oils, and
why do you think that happened? Because it was being mass produced and it was easier, or it was just more profit in it?
Yeah, I probably. I know I never have really seen that. If it's easier to process it, but a lot of these places where these oils are refined almost looks like a oil refinery. Look at that picture and look at a cow. Which one would you rather eat from?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you'd mentioned some statistics the other day that back in the 70s, and I think this is part of the other thing too, is we went to Italy a year ago, my wife and I and another couple, and a lot of people in our family have celiac, or they're sensitive to gluten. Right. And I started getting to the point where whenever I would have it, and I loved bread and everything else, that I would blow up. I would just I just feel terrible. We went over there. I ate everything, and I gained 1 pound. When we were over there, and I ate and I drank. I did all kinds of stupid stuff that you wouldn't normally do.
Sounds like you had a fun vacation.
It was great. It was great. Well. Let's. I guess that would be a good entree then into this antiviral strategy. So tell me about this, what it consists of, and how best to start it, and a little bit of details into.
Obviously the virus thing has kind of come about because of the COVID, and so I started looking into it. What's the best way to prevent? If you do get sick, how can you try to keep from getting sick? But you can't always, we have viruses in our environment all the time. But if you do, how can you prevent it? So one, you want the good diet. You want to stay healthy to start with. You want a sufficient amount of protein, because you don't want to, I'm not saying overdo it on the protein, but probably about, half of gram per lean body weight, depending on if you're doing resistive exercises. So you want that, and then you want to have a good professional multivitamin, multi-mineral regimen. So you want to avoid the glucose, the black flour, and the omega-6 oils.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So that's the start.
Okay.
So, and then you want to look at the nutritional supply. What products are antiviral, will be anti-replication, so they will allow the virus to replicate. You want food that would boost your immune system on cellular function, and give the cell support.
Okay.
So one of the big players in that is vitamin A. So vitamin A is an antiviral, provides good immunonutrition, and gives your cell support. Causes of, if you lack vitamin A, is usually you notice that in your eyesight, especially at night. Night blindness. There's also a lot of studies that show that if you do have the measles, or if you get the measles, if you lack vitamin A, that's when measles can be death-threatening.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So you want to make sure you have enough vitamin A.
Okay.
And you can get that. Typically you can get that in a multivitamin supplement.
Okay. What type of food would have that if you didn't have
carrots? Carrots is the most
okay.
common thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Because I know we're doing vitamin D. I think D3 is what I take.
Yeah, so D3, talk about D3, that's an antiviral, anti-replication, immunonutrition, and supports the cell. Vitamin D is like the granddaddy,
Oh, okay.
the major thing. And that I would encourage, especially listeners that live in northern climates, to get their vitamin D checked by their doctor.
Okay.
And because 80% of the population is deficient in vitamin D. And even if you're and not only get it checked, but know what your levels are, because it should be between 30 and 100 in your bloodstream.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you're at the lower end, you could have problems. You want to get that to the upper end, 70, 80, 90.
What's a lack of vitamin D do to you?
It can do a lot of things. That's why it's such a granddaddy of things. Vitamin D is a vitamin, but it really almost acts as a hormone.
Oh, okay.
So it can make you tired. It communicates with your thyroid, bone function, produces bone. And the best way typically to take, if you're not on blood thinners, is take vitamin D with K2, because the K2 will help influx the calcium back into the bone.
Okay.
And there's been several studies that show that K2 actually will get the calcium out of the arterial walls and then get into the bone too. So K2 is a huge thing to take with the vitamin D that they found. So you should take about probably between 4 and 10,000 IUs of vitamin D a day, because you're always going to be using it. And especially in northern climates, if you're not out in the sun, then you should, you're going to have to probably beef that up a little bit in the wintertime, because and even if you do, when you do go out in the sun, you probably shouldn't put any sunblock on for about the first 15, 20 minutes just to get that vitamin D. Because what do we do now to block ourselves up when we go out in the sun, so we don't
250,000 SPF or whatever.
Right.
So
And then I kind of wonder about that. You put the sunblock on, you start sweating. You ever see the chemicals in the the crap, the sunblocks? I mean, is that penetrating into your skin and lymphs and things like that? So 15, 20 minutes out in the sun without any block on would be good. Get that vitamin D. That's mainly where you're going to get it from, green leafy vegetables or
so you don't need a lot of exposure to the sun to actually keep your levels up then, is that
right. But how much do we get? I mean, we're from
up here in the clouds. Yeah, we get the clouds and everything. It's like
300 days a year. It's cloudy.
Yeah, I don't know. What does a vampire need in order to get their vitamin D? I don't know from that standpoint.
The good thing about vitamin D too, it's good for the gut, which is amazing. So the vitamin D is just amazing, the things that it does. I mean, that's one nutrient that you really have to look at. That's the vitamin D.
So we'll have to definitely do that. So that's one of the good things: vitamin D3 and M&Ms and spinach. It's like so I'm not too bad. Okay,
right.
Now, what you would also mention, like zinc or something else?
Yeah, zinc. So zinc is real important. It's a mineral, obviously, and so there's been a lot of studies done. Not a lot, but a lot of these studies have been done in Europe.
Okay.
So it's kind of hard to get the information from United States doing it, but they showed that people that do get COVID, if they take most of them, a lot of them that get really sick, their vitamin D levels are low, and if they get vitamin D and zinc within the first 5 days, their chances of surviving are much greater.
Okay.
And then if they're really sick and old, they do vitamin D, zinc, and hydrochloroquine, then their chances of surviving are like in the 90th percentile. It's amazing. Yeah.
So the hydrochloroquine that was poo-pooed, I guess, this last year, and everything was actually really, it was going to be beneficial,
right?
In some cases,
they got to get those nutrients in too. So I'm not, there's a point for pharmaceuticals, but you have to gauge the risk versus the benefits.
Sure.
You just can't be gulping these things down and not having any benefits out of them.
Sure. Now, is there any doing this regimen of the vitamins and things like that, is there any detriment or downside to someone who, like we were talking before, if someone was healthy, you may not even need the vaccine, in a purest form, but it's probably smart to get it. But if you do have like these multiple, maybe they have diabetes or they have heart disease or something like that, once that gets to that point, the more you have an illness, it's probably best to get the vaccine. But how does this regimen, the antivirals, either on the prevention or trying to get that once you do get it, uh, or someone that's sick and has multiple, I guess, conditions or symptoms of different things, does that interfere? Does it actually help them? Is there anything that they should guard against by not doing it, or what?
Yeah, the what they call the comorbidities
Okay.
that you have prior to getting a virus
Okay.
are huge.
Okay.
And they found that diabetes and heart disease, big factors. And
Okay.
why do people have those? Because they're highly inflamed.
Okay.
Because of their diet.
So they've just
So
they haven't taken care of themselves for years, and it's catching up with
yeah,
them. Is
yeah.
basically
So
what
what
it amounts to.
happens? Being in that inflamed state, you have what they call these cytokines, which
Mhm.
are inflammatory enzymes in your blood. You have these floating around all the time, right? So this COVID comes along and just jacks up those cytokines.
Okay.
Explodes them, and then these particular one with the COVID usually goes to the lungs.
Okay.
So and that's why you get these huge problems. So yeah, there if you don't have the healthy diet and the exercise and taking the supplements and knowing where you're at, and inflamed to start with, yeah, you got problems. So you
Okay.
might be one to then want to do the vaccination.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're healthy and this is going to be a totally different perspective
Yeah.
to looking at this, but if you're healthy and you have no comorbidities, is it really going to hurt to get the virus?
Mm-hmm.
Because one, you're going to get immunity
Mhm.
then. So, and we have to understand this in immunity and vaccines, how that all works. When the body gets the virus naturally, it develops cellular response and humoral response.
Mm-hmm.
So cellular response lasts for a lifetime. So when measles is a perfect example of this. When a kid gets measles, they have a cellular and humoral response, and they never have to be vaccinated against measles because they
Gotcha.
got it naturally, and
Okay.
and it lasts a lifetime,
Okay.
right? But when you get vaccinated with measles, it lasts about 9 to 10 to 11 years, something like that.
Okay.
And you always have to get boosters, right? Because you never get that cellular response.
Gotcha.
And once you get the cellular response, and the body identifies that, generates these T cells and all this other stuff that goes on in your body. And then it really, it gives you that immunity for life. Now, with COVID, they don't know yet.
Mhm.
Are you going to have immunity for life, or how long are you going to have immunity?
You're not an anti-vaxxer because you said your parents had it
Right.
and
So
everything, but you're just talking about it from a standpoint that, I guess from a practical standpoint. So does that get in then to this herd immunity? Is that what they were talking about then? That if everybody gets it,
right.
it's almost like getting the measles, and okay, well, they get the measles, mumps, or whatever, and it's like, okay, once I got them, I'm done and I'm good.
Right. So yeah. So my parents are, in their 80s. My dad just turned 87. A lot of comorbidities, diabetes, heart problems, things like that. I took him to get the vaccine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, you don't want your loved ones get sick and die.
Right.
So yeah, against that. But it's just a different way of thinking. If you're healthy, if you want to,
Mhm.
and with the herd immunity, how many, we know a lot of documented cases, I guess, that test positive, but there's been so much speculation of how many of those are false positive.
Gotcha.
And how many people didn't get tested that were sick and things like that. But yeah, you do have to get that herd immunity.
What else do we have here as far as some of that?
Selenium's a real important nutrient as well. That's antiviral, anti-replication. It helps with the immune nutrition and helps support the cell. So selenium is sometimes hard to get because a lot of these nutrients, if you're not supplementing, are very hard to get because of how our food's grown nowadays.
Okay.
It's so mass produced and the soil's so depleted that you just can't get it. You're getting I think it's like 60% of the value of the nutrients in the
Okay.
food now that you got in 1970s because of how everything's farmed.
Wow.
So you really have to supplement with some of these products. Another one that isn't some people know a lot about is in acetylcysteine. That's an amino acid, and that's kind of an anti-replication autoimmune thing, and cell helps support the cell. It helps support the cell. Within the cell, you have mitochondria, and the NAC helps the mitochondria rid the bad toxins.
Okay.
And the mitochondria supplies a lot of the energy process for the cell, helps the cell function. The ATP, which is like the energy producer for the cell.
Gotcha. Okay. The
Another good one too is melatonin, but you want to take that at night before you go to bed typically, and that's actually pretty good for the gut as well. Melatonin.
really?
Yeah.
Okay. Now the last one here was licorice, but I don't think it was the licorice
Yeah, it's
that
not
I
the,
was thinking about, like
not the one you eat out of the
red
bag.
vines or nothing like that. So that's not helping.
Yeah,
you.
they can come in like a licorice root, like a tea, and you just have to really kind of take that periodically. It's not something you need on a day-to-day basis. But
Okay.
if you're ever gonna make a tea, a licorice tea is a good antiviral tea
Okay.
to make.
If you were to wrap this whole thing up and saying, we talked about some exercise, we talked about diet, we talked about the antiviral strategies and everything, what would be one thing in order for someone to get started on this? Would it take them a routine of a week or a couple of weeks if they stayed at it? How soon or how long would it take for them to cleanse their body and start feeling better?
Well, I think they would start feeling better within a couple weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Similar
Yeah.
like me coming after 15 days of no sugars.
Right. Yeah.
Because it was one of those things. After the first couple of days, I noticed that I didn't have that hunger for them and everything, and then it's finally like, oh no, no big deal, and I wouldn't salivate like I did the first couple of days,
Well,
like
yeah.
walking by a candy stand or something.
Right, John. And that is shows you how addictive sugar is, right? So,
Mhm.
and then when you cut it out, you really don't crave it as
Right.
much after a couple weeks.
Right.
And when you do eat it, you eat less of it, and you almost feel nauseated. When you eat it.
Yeah, it did. It almost made me sick.
Yeah.
Not that I went to wine more then or anything like that. I didn't transfer my.
I'm sure
craving,
that
but-
wine was a lot better in Italy too, or in
Oh,
Europe,
yeah.
because in the United States, another thing, they spray those fields with crap, and then
Oh,
they put the
yeah.
preservatives in the bottle, and you can almost smell those preservatives when you put your nose up to the glass.
Oh,
in,
yeah.
American wines.
The wine, yeah, they said over there, don't worry about trying to get a good bottle of wine or doing anything like that. They're table wines, just what you get in a little carafe and everything. Oh my God, those things were fabulous. And it was like, you get a carafe for like, 7-8 euros. It's like, $10 $10.
Were you
And,
able to find your hotel after you went to dinner?
yeah, because we had the chaperone with us the whole time. He said this way, and that's what we would do. Right? Yeah, usually, we would end up by purposefully, through experience, we would go to a restaurant at the top of the hill. So that way, whenever we got to
Walk down the hill.
we walked down and we rolled back to the room. Is what we usually did. So that's how we made it. But yeah, we had a good time. But I think that's a whole nother story. We can get off on another tangent. Take us about 6 weeks of craziness there. Thank you. The doctor's going to be in for a second part here, and what we're going to do is talk about microbiomes in the gut and the health and everything. So stay tuned for the next episode, which we'll have Dr. Price back. And in the meantime, like us, love us. What is that other thing that they have to do?
Check us out on YouTube.
Check us out on YouTube. Yes, that's it. You can get this on YouTube and subscribe. That's it. The big button is subscribe. Notifications. Yes.
Hit the thumbs up and ring the bell.
That's it. See, he's going to be doing this from now on. And if you have any questions or anything, Cindy at lifestagesadvisory.com. See you till next time. Bye.